And we're back to the fourth episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I'm your host, Sam. We're here with my co-host, Noor, and of course, JB behind the glass. Well, gentlemen, we've made it to the end of the regular season. So as we head into the playoffs, I wanted to start us off by taking a moment to look back and reflect on the season that was. Obviously, we don't have enough time or the will to look back on everything, but let's pick out a few things that stood out to us in a few different categories. First of which, on the lighter side of things, and something you and I both take great pride in, team names. Have any team names stood out to you in either a positive or negative fashion?
Great to be back, Sammy. As usual, you do a wonderful job of queuing things up here with the positive and negative fashion, because I think normally we'd probably just be on a positive spin for our parts here. We have so much fun with the name games and the categories and such. And, you know, I'll even give a little peek behind the curtain of that. But did we ever get any clarity, understanding about what the actual fuck double indemnity was the hell was that shit? I might have missed it. Totally understandable. But come on, the fuck was that?
Dude, I don't get it. I don't get it either.
That being said, the peek behind the curtain. We play this name game. We take it very seriously. We've got categories picked out preseason. We did a spin the wheel type thing this year to help fill the gaps. And some of those brought us things like Keanu character names, Happy Madison quotes, and even randomly got us to this week's theme, which I won't spoil, but I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad. No spoilers there, but I am particularly proud of our team name this week, and I know you'll bring the heat as normal. But when it comes to team names throughout the year, looking back historically at what was presented to us, I chose to take this in a different direction. And rather than a name that was sported this year, I'm going to point out the lack of a team name. And that is, of course, referring to Mike's patented Team Basura team name. Yep.
Yes.
So you know it's been a productive season all the way through for Mike. If he doesn't rock the Team Basura moniker at any point during the season, and he's evaded that, and lo and behold, he's the number one seed in the top scoring team in the league. So that gets you out of the Team Basura camp.
Yeah.
So
what I want to see is what does it take to get him to bring back fuck Marshawn Lynch? Because I thought he had that for like 3 years. This is what it felt like. But you know, I digress.
Over and 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 over again. They're just not gonna want that.
All right. So getting more into the nuts and bolts of our league, let's talk about the wheeling and the dealing. Specifically, what were the biggest trades of the year? Maybe the most impactful or shocking or one-sided? What stood out to you, Noor?
I mean, you know, big reason of why we love this league, other than just our time together, it's the trades, it's the action. There's so many different ways we could usually dive into this conversation, but I felt like, I don't know if we've ever seen someone really fully commit to the rebuild the way JB dove in and just said, okay, this is how this year's going to go. I'm sending away some talent. I'm going to get some talent back, hopefully extend them, you know, see what the plan was. But to get the net of picks that he was getting for this last couple of weeks of the year, truly remarkable to see. And, you know, let's see how it works out for him. But you got a first for Kamara. We had two separate trades that he and I did that netted him, you know, some young players to build around. And, you know, even one of the trades that you're going to be digging into. In the professional ranks, we call that a segue, folks.
I am a genius.
All right, well, I'll get right into that. So I chose to approach this from a league-altering perspective. I don't think we had too many insane trades here. And spoiler, we kind of laid out most of these before some trades happened towards the end of the year that may have made this list. But in terms of league altering is where way I wanted to approach this. And I went with Corey Hart. Yes, that Corey Hart. He's formed himself into an absolute powerhouse of a team this season. And I honestly could not believe it that was possible until I researched all the trades and free agent moves that Corey had made through this season. And I found 2 back-to-back slammers between Corey Hart and the first one was between Corey Hart and our own JB behind the glass. JB gave up Russell Wilson, sent that over to Corey Hart for Ben Sinnott, the Bengals defense, the vaunted Bengals defense, and a 3rd-round draft pick. And then shortly after, there was another trade that went down between Corey and Jason, where Corey gave up first-round pick wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, who went 3 straight games without a catch, and Jason gave up Cortland Sutton straight up. So those 2 players were exchanged. So since that trade, Cortland Sutton has been the wide receiver 2 in fantasy football, and Russell Wilson had his first 400-yard passing game since he was a Seattle Sea Chicken. So creating that insulation at QB for Corey, who lost Trevor Lawrence and has never had the balls to start Drake May, was a very roster bolstering trade for our future champion.
Wait, what?
And truly ironic that it's Russell Wilson kind of coming to the rescue here for someone who we all know he's loved Seattle from the beginning of the Pete Carroll era, it feels like. So who else would it be to lightning rod his team and galvanize them as it turns out?
Very true. Corey and the Seattle Seahawks are like just the 3rd grader who teases the girl that he likes. He keeps his enemies close and he keeps the Seahawks closer. All right, moving on to our next segment here, continuing the train of transactions. Part of creating a championship roster is definitely navigating the waiver wire. Which free agent pickups this year were the best / most impactful in your eyes?
You said it perfectly. I think season long, it's not as maybe as apparent as it's been in years past with like the Kyron Williams or the Puka pickups from last year that we saw, and a couple other examples that can be thought fondly upon. But we'll touch on Kareem Hunt a little bit. But I think even these controlled bursts that we kind of saw with some boosts that we got from people, like there was a somewhat short-lived Flacco run that for a little bit looked like it was something again, just like it was last year. Even earlier named that cat out there, but had a little run to it that maybe we'll see if it picks back up here. Jameson Williams earlier in the season looked like it was a net gain, a nice little win for Andy with that. And even Kareem Hunt that we're going to talk about a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great segue for me. And yeah, I think we're in agreement here. There wasn't a season-long league winner like there was last year with Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, those draft picks or those free agent pickups. But I would say that what stood out to me was how Team Slate navigated the waiver wire through the first 9 weeks or so, picking up Jordan Mason off of waivers when he came in for the 49ers to start the year, and who carried the team slate for the first 4 to 5 weeks, and then picking up the Chiefs' Kareem Hunt, as you alluded to, around that week 5 or 6 time frame, who also contributed as a top 10 back for the next 5 or so weeks, piecemealing a top 10 fantasy running back through the waiver wire pickups over a 10-week period is pretty impressive. And I think if you just piecemeal those 2 transactions together, is a very impressive maneuvering around the waiver wire to get that kind of production.
Yeah, and not to be overlooked. Even Jameis down the stretch, like being able to get some quality starts out of him as well in that fashion. Like it's when it happens this many times with the same GMs, they clearly got an eye for talent when it comes to the waiver wire and beyond.
Oh yeah, definitely. They have shown their. Alex Slater and Alex Gomez have shown their proficiency to find talent throughout the draft and on the waiver wire equally. So good on them. Good on them.
Good for them. Good for them.
I thought you'd be happy to hear that.
Enough of the pleasantries, though. Let's talk about pain points, specifically the biggest busts of the 2024 season. This could be players drafted this year, or perhaps were on a gala roster last year under a multi-year deal and had high expectations going into the season. Let's steer away from season-ending injuries and more towards on-field performance / utilization. Okay, so who comes to mind for you, Noor?
I guess with the on-field performance and utilization or lack thereof being the key focus here. Hate to hammer my guy here, but Sonny going with Zamir White. It's the end of round 2 draft capital. Obvious reasons of what he thought he was getting with this pick in terms of like a guaranteed workload, type situation. We saw Zamir was integral to the championship run for Slate last year. Like, we know what he's capable of in stretch runs. And so I get what he was going for, but as we know, hindsight is a cruel, cruel mistress, especially when you've got the draft spreadsheet available to look back on and see who went, shortly after these picks. And you start looking through the names, and it doesn't take long before you hit Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Najee Harris, even James Conner, or not to be overlooked, the now surging Rico Suave. All of those picks came afterwards. And you got to think any of those picks at some point during the year would have been able to contribute more, not just to Sonny's team, not just to their teams, but to Sonny's team, and help maybe avoid some of the disaster he's had to deal with.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I know that Zamir White had his offseason fanboys. I won't name names, but it's shocking to see how he went from the bell cow workhorse, can't miss prospect in terms of volume to just not even getting on the field. So I guess biceps aren't everything, but we live and we learn, and we'll see if we can avoid the next landmine that is the next Zamir White. But personally, for myself, in terms of the biggest bust, with no bias at all and without putting too much thought into it, it was Dalton Kincaid. No questions asked. First round draft capital by the Buffalo Bills. Shined in his rookie season and then moved up the pecking order during the offseason with departures from Gabe Davis to Stephon Diggs. But no, dude is not even a top 20 tight end in a down year for the position. Fuck that dude. He's dead to me.
You're dead to me, boy. You're more dead to me than your dead mother.
Dalton. He should have been so much more than he turned out to be. You just fucking hate to see it.
Don't worry. We'll return him back to the draft pool this year, and he will be a top 5 tight end next year. Don't worry about that. All right. One last chance to look back at the season that was before we look ahead. What was some of your most memorable moments from the 2024 Gridiron Gala regular season? What's something that we or will reminisce on for years to come?
I'd say thematically, it feels like this was the resurgence of running backs. Like they're back on the menu with the way this year went. I mean, it's easy to talk about obviously what Saquon's done, even what Henry was able to do for a bit. The Joe Mixon, return to form, Kyron, and then all along the way you've got, in a split backfield, both Montgomery and Gibbs are eating. Like it's cool to see running backs back in the mix, not just in the league itself, the actual NFL, but also in Dynasty, of course, and most of all, our format. Our format is set up for running backs to be the engines of your team. Even in Superflex, I think good running back stable is crucial. So that's my big thing. It's like thematically there's that. But, what's not to like about a couple 40 burgers or even a 50 burger that just happened? We got Jamar Chase's 44-point explosion against Baltimore, which I'm sure you did a little exploding as well. And, Senior Josh Stallion decided to top that with a 50 piece. Amazing.
Yeah. Those were some impressive performances, no doubt. I think the shift towards running back centricity is something to behold. And I feel like we've had a lot of running back durability this year as well, that we're not churning through multiple running backs unless you play for the San Francisco 49ers. But outside of that, the running backs in the league are staying pretty healthy. So, yeah, that's definitely a theme of this year. Something I'm personally going to remember is the first thing that came to me was Week 11's matchup of my brother Alex Green versus Corey Hart, where Saquon Barkley understood the assignment and ripped Corey's heart out en route to amassing 190 total yards and 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football to beat Corey 110-109. Because when Corey loses by 1 point, I cannot fully climax unless Corey's in insufferable pain. Otherwise, I'm just faking it. So that is a Monday treat for me that I will remember. But then just recently, a contribution that I will always remember and hope the league does too, I've taken the screenshots, don't worry, is the absolute meltdown from Slater on Monday night, week 14, when he realized he wasn't getting into the playoffs and Andy was. That was something to behold. I will never forget the composure displayed there, and I just can't fathom why Slater isn't a lawyer or a surgeon with that type of steady hand, you know?
Spare.
Oh, I mean, it's just when you've got the amount of will and desire that Slate has to win, to be a champion, to watch his team succeed, I get it. He puts everything he's got into it. And conversely, when it starts to go, it goes full tilt the other way, and we just are like, holy shit. I got to say, in terms of meltdowns, et cetera, all that is understood. But to add to the whole thing, the start that CeeDee Lamb had to that game, you had to be thinking like, oh my God, what they needed 21 points? Like, what? Come on. He had like, was it 11 or 14 or something? Like in the first couple drives, and including a long run that you're not even expecting that. Like that's icing. So not to twist the knife, I'm just saying sometimes the reason the meltdown is so extreme is because that heat is running hot beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
Now repeat after me. Goose from a...
All right. So that was our look back. Now let's look towards the future, Noor. Now that all the dust has settled and the free-for-all is set, looking at the rosters, looking at the matchups, which owners are going to put themselves in positions to move on to the next round of the bracket?
You know, just like real football, I think there is an element to momentum, obviously, and there would be no shock for some teams to just continue their surge that they used to get into the dance to continue rolling with that. So that's at least like where I'd like to start, generally. I think this time of year comes down to having just the top heavy, big naturals, those things that just thang. Of course, I'm talking about studs at quarterback, running back, wide receiver. I know what you're laughing about. I'm talking about those positions only. And even, obviously, if tight end can boost your squad a little bit, that's great. But this is where it really comes together, where your horses need to get out and run, right? So I feel like, speaking of momentum, speaking of being on a heater, maybe Josh Allen leads Andy's team just surging through this thing. Like maybe he just keeps blowing the doors off, going for an MVP run of his own. Maybe that's where we go. But despite wanting to pick Andy to make a big splash here, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a short dance for him, just because of the injuries that seem to be kind of piling up in the rest of the running back room, some of his wide receivers. Not that Josh Allen isn't capable of Herculean efforts, as we've already seen, but eventually this is why the free-for-all is amazing. It's not just about your matchup directly one-to-one, right? It's you got to really get contribution from all of your players in most cases, because teams put up 100, 112, 120 pretty regularly in the free-for-alls from what we've seen. So you gotta do it. That being said, I'm not also picking myself because of the complete fucking meltdown. Talk about meltdowns. Disintegration is happening on my team. It is, I don't know what the fuck. This is terrible. Like life alert, AARP. I don't know what the hell my team needs, but it ain't happening right now. And so I think it comes down to old team 7 on a heater, getting going, getting in, got that stack, them things thanging.
Oh, come on, fudge midnight.
Burrow, Chase, maybe it's time. Combined with Green. Green's running backs are a sight to behold right now. And you want to talk about brown magic? I can talk about it. You want to talk about green magic? I don't know what kind of black magic Mahomes has, but fuck that guy, that cock-juggling thundercunt. I hate him. Why do we talk about him? Why did you make me talk about him? Green, 7. Those are my picks to get through the first round, the old free-for-all.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence. I know it's an actual reverse jinx, and it's not going to work, but appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's a great pick with my brother, Alex Green. I think if those running backs, if Saquon and Mixon stay healthy, he's going to be a tough out all the way through with those two. All right, so let's look beyond the free-for-all week, since we may not pod again until the season is complete. Who wins their respective matchups and moves on to the championship game? So you've got 7 progressing. We'd face the number 1 seed, Corey, and then he would have Alex Green progressing. He would face Mike in the semis. What you got?
Well, I would love to assume that this could work out in a way that maybe you guys get through. Maybe it happens. We'd love that. Honestly, when I first thought about this, just again looking at it as the two teams that I think have that core nucleus that can really do it, it does come down to Mike versus Green. But if that's happening in conference championship weekend, then I think it's going to come down to, can anyone stop Mike's team? And I know it's hard to pick chalk, the number one seed, etc. Not a lot of number one seeds have ran the table before, I know, but Mike was one of the ones that did it. And I think top to bottom, his team looks more primed than any of ours, really. So I think Mike would advance in this case. And of all the matchups that it had to come down to, it would have to be you guys against Corey. It would have to be pure drama, theatrics, etc. that you would have. And I hate to keep picking the number one seeds, but you said it yourself. A powerhouse has been built. We're all just watching it unfold. And I think it would end up being the guys that have been racing for points this whole year. Maybe they even get into a situation where they do a little double for nothing straight up. I don't know. Bunch of gamblers get in a room together. Let's get weird.
You don't know when to quit, do you, Griswold? Here's an idea. Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet? Then we'll go out back. I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
So I would think that it would get to where the final was straight up Mike versus Corey.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to vote against that. Mike's been probably the top two team all year. And then Corey's the unbeatable juggernaut that has been formed since halfway through the year. So I can't fault you for those. We had a good run. So maybe I will be able to beat my brother in the third place game and finally cash. Sam will finally cash in this league. We'll see. Let's complete the circle here then. Mike versus Corey. I doubt those guys split. They're competitors. Who wins it all and takes all the hardware?
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's a split happening. And I hope, frankly, I hope a split never happens. Like, let's just not let that be a thing. Do it straight up. Go for it. Go for the gusto, et cetera, et cetera.
Cowards!
That being said, I've waxed poetic about Mike's team a little bit too much, but really just digging deep on it, he's got the quarterback advantage. Running back advantage, I could see that could maybe end up swinging Corey's way, but maybe not by much, And then wide receiver wise, I mean, yeah, Corey's been able to get amazing production out of the wide receivers that he has, and they've been on their own heaters, for lack of a better term, obviously. But you want me to be picking against this JJ Nico type situation? Feels rough, feels improbable. So I think it would all just come down to Mike closing the deal, completing the story, whatever you want to call it, and reminding us all how fucked we were from the very beginning in Vegas, and we should have known. And what'd you expect? Type situations.
Yeah. We just wasted 8 months of our life. We could have just jumped straight to it if you just asked Mike in Vegas.
Undo P.
All right. On the other side of the coin, let's not just shine a light on the 6 teams that made the playoffs. Let's talk about the losers bracket. That's also set. How do you see that playing out? Who takes home the number one pick, even if they maybe don't have possession of that pick?
Well, like I said earlier, we've never seen anyone commit to a rebuild this way. And I think if it were able to work out for JB, that would really be something. Not just because he'd have that pick, he'd have another first-round pick, he'd kind of have really be set up for, us getting to see what he can do with a cadre of picks, a high pick, etc. Probably clearly cash to burn now that he's offloaded some of his more expensive players even throughout the rebuild process. I'd love to see it also because I'll say it to his face even. Jason is afraid of rookie high picks. I think it's evident in his choices over the years. Not knocking it, it's a strategy, but when you're up there and there isn't a clear-cut stud, like established superstar to take, you got to kind of shoot your shot. And we've seen it not work out previously. Actually, we've probably not seen it work out more often than not. But you kind of have to take that swing when you're there. So I want to see those fireworks. Like what is JB going to end up doing in that case? And not to be overlooked, Sonny's got a lot of picks. I think when you have two quarterbacks that are going on a run right now that it seems like Bo Nix and Caleb all of a sudden have been able to put together, maybe Sonny's able to get right there and be in the final with JB. And if not, for getting the top pick, maybe JB and Sonny figure out a way to swap if JB doesn't want the pressure of the top pick or something like that. But I don't know. I think JB completes the story. I think he ends up winning the bracket. I think you're going to get a spirited contest from the likes of the all HN, the 4chan HN team. But I think Sonny and JB have the right combination of players right now that seem to be hitting their stride. Unfortunately for them, it being a loser's bracket.
Okay. All right. Well, regardless of the postseason efforts, one fate is already set, and that is our 2024 beer bitch, Sonny.
You ain't never had a bitch like me.
Tough spot there. That's been in the league 3 years. He's got 2 beer bitches under his belt. That's tough sledding. What are your thoughts there? Was this the deserving beer bitch? If not, who was spared?
Well, as I'm usually provoked to do by myself, I will take a sizable amount of blame on this, in that Tony absolutely got away with murder here, in that he didn't end up in that shameful seat. Whether it was start-sit decisions throughout the year, whether it was unfortunate penalties that occurred that took points off the board and would have caused a win or a loss to go the other way in the witching hour, he managed to do it. And to all of our chagrin, every time we're like, it's the Breaking Bad screaming gif from Jesse where it's just, he can't keep getting away with this, and yet all he does is get away with this shit.
You can't keep getting away with it.
That being said, it's hard to walk this back and really dial it into a singular trade or even a lack thereof or anything for me. I think this is just the sheer funk, or whatever you want to call it, of trading away Jefferson last year. Even I can't even say trading away Amon-Ra was like a total miss in that same regard. But it's just, when you've got young, locked in talent, maybe we don't rush to see what you can get for them, or hey, I can't retain them next year anyway, or I don't want to pay $60 for them or more in RFA, whatever end all be all logic ends up happening. Maybe we don't do that, or maybe we don't do that for all of those guys. So we'll see. But he's in a position to right the ship. And as we have said before, not just on the pod, but in each other's presence many times, sometimes you just got to pay the devil their dues. And if he's paying it up front, then maybe he's going to be in for a hell of a run after this. But the pressure's on. Yeah.
We've had back-to-back before, as Kevin enjoyed getting some company on that front, but we've never had the three-peat. So that's something that Sonny's going to have to fight off next year, tooth and nail. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Final thoughts before we sign off here, Noor. Anything that you want to get off your chest before we head into the playoffs full steam ahead?
It's a good time to look back and think about the mistakes we've made, etc. But despite the tequila really wanting me to do that right now, I'm going to look forward and just say we're at the best part. The free-for-all is its own beautiful, cruel thing all at once. And I can't wait to see how it unfolds. I hope to God Kirk Cousins remembers how to play football for my sake personally, but that might not be possible anymore. I don't know. I just, as usual, I hope there's no bullshit injuries, no anything like that. We can all play each other straight up, and we all score above 150 points, and may the best team bring it. So I just hope we're in for more of the good and not more of the bad when it comes to this cruel world of fantasy football.
Love, it's a motherfucker, huh?
All right. Well, there you have it. A regular season review for the 2024 Gridiron Gala Fantasy Football League. We've explored the highs and the lows and look forward to an exciting postseason and crowning this season's champion. So best of luck to everyone heading into their matchups. And from everyone here at the Triple Threat Podcast, we bid you Farewell.
Bye-bye.